X-Men 97 has been setting the bar pretty high for the fans of the original X-Men, the animated series from the 90s, and these nostalgia-packed intense storylines have kept the viewers guessing for all 7 episodes so far. The stage is now set for the perfect 3-part season finale, and the threat that the X-Men have to deal with is one of the deadliest that they have encountered. With the revelation that Prime Sentinels are being ready to eliminate the mutants and hints at a much greater conspiracy at work, we couldn't have imagined a better storyline to sum things up for Season 1. In this video, we will explore everything you need to know about the Prime Sentinels and how the X-Men have historically dealt with this threat. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you, and let's begin.
Terminate mutants.
What are the Prime Sentinels, and how does X-Men 97 introduce them? Previously in X-Men 97, we have seen the ghastly events of the mutant massacre on Genosha in Episode 5, and since then the X-Men have been constantly trying to track down the original culprit behind the slaughter of millions of mutants. In Episode 6, there were clear hints that suggested the involvement of Mr. Sinister, but Episode 7 reveals that the real mastermind is Bastion, who even manipulated Sinister to do his bidding. In this episode, a seemingly distraught Rogue is single-handedly looking for those responsible for the attack on Genosha that took the life of Gambit. The X-Men join in the hunt, and they slowly start connecting the loose ends to find some concrete evidence. Bolivar Trask confesses about his unwilling involvement in the massacre and tells the X-Men all about Mr. Sinister, but Rogue still drops him from a build punishment for his crimes. However, he soon comes back as a Prime Sentinel, which is the first introduction to these deadly entities in the series. It is a mix of human and cybernetics, and the modifications are so advanced and lethal that the X-Men are clueless about how to deal with it. Luckily for them, Cable arrives from the future and uses one of his futuristic weapons to neutralize the threat. However, it is clear that these zombie-like Sentinels are far more superior to the Sentinels that the X-Men have fought before. We first see the key conspirator, Bastion, as he kills Peter Gyrick after he is first apprehended by the X-Men, probably to leave no trails of his plans. Later, he is shown engaged in a conversation with Mr. Sinister, who seems to have played a major role in creating Bastion's advanced cybernetic body. Bastion also reveals that he has encountered the X-Men before, but unlike some of their other villains who failed to evolve, he has adapted to the changing circumstances. He is aware of Professor Xavier being alive and seems to have a few plans for the big man. Meanwhile, he also has Magneto in his custody, who is alive, unlike what was thought about his disappearance following the attack on Genosha. Clearly, Bastion is being pitted as the big boss fight in the season finale, and the brief encounter of the X-Men with Bolivar Trask's Prime Sentinel form suggests that the new Sentinel program is nearly perfect, and far deadlier than anything the X-Men have faced. Everything you need to know about Prime Sentinels from the comic books. One of the best things about X-Men 97 is how the show captures the authentic storylines from the comic books and adds their own subtle twist to the narrative. It has been similar with the introduction of Bastion and the Prime Sentinel threat as well, because there is a story arc that delves into familiar territory in the comics. Much like the show, even in the comics, the Prime Sentinels were created by Bastion during Operation Zero Tolerance. This was a secret government program that was designed to neutralize the mutant threat, and it was later revealed that Bastion was actually a fusion of Master Mold and the Super Sentinel Nimrod. The Prime Sentinels that he created were basically humans with various nanotech implants, which could transform them into deadly weapons against the mutants. The altered humans acted as sleeper agents, and they were completely unaware of their true nature till they received a signal from the base of the Zero Tolerance program and became activated. In the comic book storyline, Bastion used the Prime Sentinels to capture Professor Xavier, and he also launched several attacks on the mutants. Eventually, he was defeated by the X-Men working alongside S.H.I.E.L.D., and the Prime Sentinels were scrapped along with a mutant-hating program. However, Bastion continued to rework on the Sentinel program after being revived, and he himself turned into a semi-cybernetic being after using his own technology on himself. The comic book narrative indeed has a creepy and twisted side of Bastion, and from the little that we have seen in X-Men 97 so far, the show seems to be be heading in the same direction. We will not be surprised if his next step is to use the Prime Sentinels to capture Professor Xavier just like he did in the comic books, and the introduction of Cable might be key in putting an end to his efforts. Cable seems to be the only one who has some answers at the moment, and his futuristic tools and weapons will be extremely important if the X-Men are to even have a chance against Bastion. How powerful are the Prime Sentinels? Due to his expertise in nanotech and by virtue of being one of the greatest engineers ever, Bastion devised the Prime Sentinels in such a way that they were nearly invincible. They had several technological superpowers, including the ability to fly around, super strength, and powerful force blasts. These Sentinels could transform cannons from their body parts, and they also possessed the ability to affect the powers of mutants, just like the mutant restraining collar. Their computerized system was so strong that they could prepare for surprise attacks and react quicker than any human. The original personality of the host could also be used in shaping the attacks of the Prime Sentinels, which made a stronger host a more powerful Sentinel. However, the deadliest ability of the Prime Sentinels in the comic books was their capacity to turn anyone into a Prime Sentinel simply by injecting them with nanomachines. We expect this ability to be put to use against the X-Men and those fighting alongside them as they take on the Prime Sentinels in the finale. Why do the Prime Sentinels pose a serious threat to the mutants? When a force is strong enough to overpower the X-Men fighting together, you have to take it seriously. So far in X-Men 97, we have only seen Bolivar Trask as a Prime Sentinel, and his programming got activated after Rogue dropped him to his death as a punishment for his involvement in the Genosha massacre. Trask's Sentinel proved to be so powerful that everyone from Cyclops, Wolverine, Jean Grey, Beast, and Morph was incapacitated effortlessly. The X-Men were saved by a lucky interference from the time-traveling Cable, who used his futuristic electromagnetic weapon to take down the Prime Sentinel. Now, just consider the fact that Trask's Sentinel was probably not even the best weapon crafted by Bastion, and many more such attacks are yet to come. If just one Prime Sentinel can overpower the X-Men so easily, then imagine the chaos that will be caused by many of them attacking together in a coordinated plan of action. It is not a far stretch at this moment to suggest that the fate of mutant kind and the X-Men hangs in the balance.
This way, once I have to get to work, smooth as...
Will Magneto be turned into a Prime Sentinel? One of the biggest revelations of the 7th episode was the sight of Magneto still alive. He seemingly died during the attack on Genosha while trying to protect others, but it is finally revealed that he is now a hostage of Bastion. The episode clarifies the dynamics between Mr. Sinister and Bastion, and it turns out that they have been collaborating for the mission Operation Zero Tolerance, which is all about eliminating mutants from the Earth. The way the attack on Genosha had been planned by them was only the tip of the iceberg, and now Bastion is preparing the stage with a unique strike force of Prime Sentinels, which are much more powerful. However, the deadliest twist comes from how he seems to be preparing Magneto in the last scene of the episode. The Omega-level mutant is helpless and restrained with a power-dampening collar, and from Bastion's words, it seems like he wants to turn Magneto into one of his Sentinel weapons. If he succeeds, then the task of the X-Men will become all the more difficult with such a powerhouse up against them. They might then need the guidance of their former leader, Professor Xavier, to see them through this challenge. That being said, there's also a possibility where Magneto will be able to overcome the physical and mental manipulations and get back as his tormentor. While fighting the Trask Sentinel in the 7th episode, the X-Men remarked about a part of the human self still active inside the Sentinel form. If that is the case, then Magneto might just prove to be strong enough to not give up his identity and become a puppet for Bastion and Sinister. What will happen if the Prime Sentinels cannot be destroyed? Cable has already come from the future and warned the X-Men about the horrible consequences if they fail to defeat Bastion. After the events of Episode 7, we can already see why. According to Cable, if Bastion is not dealt with soon enough, there won't be a future worth living for the mutants. And clearly, if Operation Zero Tolerance is successful, it will turn into an apocalyptic world for every mutant out there. Thousands will be slaughtered by the relentless Prime Sentinel forces, and the survivors will have to hide in fear of being discovered and executed. Of course, it should have also been kept in mind that X-Men 97 has been given the green signal for Season 2, And if the X-Men fail to defeat Bastion and the Prime Sentinels in the season finale, you can expect the narrative to continue in the second season as well. Marvelous verdict. Introduction of the Prime Sentinels was a master stroke. X-Men 97 has been nothing short of a dream run so far, and the show deserves the perfect finale to sign off. From the looks of it, the makers couldn't have set the stage any better, with a crisis looming large that seems to be too overwhelming for the X-Men at the moment. The introduction of Bastion and the Prime Sentinels in Episode 7 was a masterstroke because it was completely unexpected and also unraveled a much bigger conspiracy at work against the mutants. With the likes of Professor Xavier and Storm all set to rejoin the X-Men for this mission, and the possibility of Cable contributing to their cause, it is the perfect case of an unstoppable force meeting an immovable object. It is going to be worth the wait for the season finale, and with the second season already announced, we X-Men fans simply cannot keep calm. Don't forget to share your thoughts on the Prime Sentinels in the comments below, and also tell us how you would like the 3-part season finale to go down. If you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.